So Tottenham are riding high after beating Real Madrid and are even tipped to be a European contender this year. However, settle down lads, let's take a look at some other promising Champions League teams who were once tipped to follow up their great campaigns with sustained success, only to completely disappear. FC Porto 0304. Okay, so maybe FC Porto weren't exactly a promising team. They'd got on to win the entire competition back in 2004. This was also the same year that Greece became European champions, and about 12 months before Jimmy Traore got his hands on the trophy. So it was definitely a weird time to be alive. Jose Mourinho's Porto, UEFA Cup winners the previous season, were the surprise package of the tournament. The Portuguese champions had already knocked out Manchester United, Lyon and Deportivo La Coruña before dispatching Monaco 3-0 in the final. But then Mourinho left for Chelsea, dragged half the team with him. Although he was charitable enough to leave behind Benny McCarthy, I'm sure we could have found him an Irish passport if we'd rooted through enough grannies. Without Mourinho, Porto finished second in the league and were dumped out of the Champions League in the last 16 by an Inter Milan spearheaded by Adriano. This was before he started to look like a poster boy for diabetes. In the 13 years since, Porto have made it to 2 Champions League quarter-finals. Deportivo La Coruña 0304. Sticking with the class of 04, Deportivo La Coruña are a team often forgotten about purely because they didn't make it past Porto in the semi-finals. Never mind Mourinho making Munich and Basingua European champions, the Spaniards arguably pulled off the biggest feat of the tournament. Trailing 4-1 from the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final against the holders AC Milan, you wouldn't have blamed Deportivo if they'd just given up. But as we all know, while that was a terrific Milan side, they were well capable of imploding every now and then. Isn't that right, Stevie? And lost 4-0 in Spain to exit the tournament. The future looked promising for Deportivo, linked to the likes of Munich, Javier Mascherano and Samuel Eto'o. They got none of those, but at least stopped Albert Luque from moving to Barcelona. Please, Newcastle fans, try and contain your laughter. The following season they finished 8th in La Liga and didn't win a single European game, well apart from beating Wes Hoolahan's Shelburne in a qualifier, but does that really count? Probably not. As they finished bottom of their group, getting smashed 5-0 at home by Monaco. Over time the club slipped into obscurity and have been relegated twice since. And by God, do not ask whatever became of Albert Luque. PSV Eindhoven 0405. Vladimir Smicer against Lee Young-pyo. It sounds like a potential matchup in a League Cup game, but it was almost a duel in a Champions League final. We touched on AC Milan's inability to hold on to a lead every now and then. Jesus, Liverpool didn't need to look too far for inspiration. PSV Eindhoven had lost the first leg of the semi-final 2-0 in the Italian capital before giving them the scare of their life in the rematch, winning 3-1 with Park Ji-sung tearing the Milanese defence to shreds. This was back when he was told to attack Milan rather than just follow Andrea Pirlo around for 90 minutes. Gus Hiddink's men were an exciting side, surprising considering they only really had the South Korean as the star man. Come on, they had Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink up front for God's sake. The following season, the parkless Dutch were put out in the last 16, losing 5-0 on aggregate to Lyon. They have made it to 1 quarter-final since. Inter Milan 0910. Again, like Porto, they won the whole thing, and with the same manager too, who decided about 20 minutes after lifting the trophy, right, my work here is done. Best of luck with that aging squad you've got there. Inter Milan won the Champions League in 2010, conceding just 3 knockout goals along the way. Rafa Benitez replaced Mourinho, stumbled through a Champions League group after seeing his right back get reduced to rubble, was sacked by Christmas, the club was dumped out in the quarterfinals by Schalke, 7-3 on aggregate, and they finished 6th. They haven't played in the Champions League since they were knocked out in the last 16 by Marseille 5 years ago. This is Inter Milan we're talking about. Malaga 12-13. Here's one for the football hipsters. Borussia Dortmund were the team that grabbed our attention during the 12-13 season, right? We were all blown away by the pace on the flanks and the maniac on the sideline. Manuel Pellegrini's Malaga should receive a mention though. After all, it was what basically got him the Man City job. They finished 4th the previous season and had the likes of Martin Di Michelis, Willy Caballero and Rocky Santa Cruz. I realise I've just named a bunch of lads who warmed the bench at Man City, but they did a job in Spain. They topped their group, beat Porto in the last 16, forced a goalless draw at home to Dortmund in the quarterfinals before going 2-1 up in Germany with 8 minutes remaining. And then the most insane 2 minutes of football transpired in injury time that probably made the Malaga fans wish they were dead. Goals from Marco Reus and Felipe Santana somehow flipped the tie on its head. Malaga were out and Jurgen Klopp nearly died of happiness. And that was it. Malaga were stripped of their best players, lost their boss and haven't come within a whisker of the top 4 since. Leeds United 2000-2001. This is what happens when you chuck too much money at an unsustainable project. It might feel like it, but Leeds United weren't always consigned to playing Sheffield Wednesday and Burton Albion on cold Wednesday nights. In May 2001 they were welcoming Valencia to Ellen Road for a Champions League semi-final. They'd beaten the likes of AC Milan, Besiktas, Lazio, Anderlecht, Deportivo La Coruña and narrowly lost to Real Madrid en route to the semis, but it proved a bridge too far in Valencia, getting thumped 3-0. The worst was yet to come, by far. Within 3 years, the club would have sold every player and his granny, struggling to keep themselves in existence as they teetered on the brink of administration. They were swiftly relegated, and again, it's been a bad 14 seasons for the Leeds fans, so I won't dwell on it for you. Dynamo Kiev 98-99. The 1999 Champions League is remembered for Manchester United winning it, Samuel Kufor having a meltdown and Clive Tyldesley nearly breaking his voice box. But Dynamo Kiev deserve a mention. With a young Ukrainian talent up front, they reached the semi-finals, finishing above Arsenal in Group E and knocking out Real Madrid in the quarter-finals. But no, Andrei Shevchenko was immediately sold, and they have yet to make it to even a quarter-final since. Bayer Leverkusen 2001-2002. I'm not sure what happened to Bayer Leverkusen in 2003, but it was something pretty dramatic. Maybe the players were still hungover from their defeat in the Champions League final the previous season. Polarised in shock by Zinedine Zidane's stunning volley in Hampton Park, the Germans had finished runners-up in the league, the German Cup, and the Champions League. It was also the same year the captain Michael Ballack lost the World Cup final to Brazil. Jesus, he couldn't buy a trophy that year. You would have thought that after such a long season where they battled on all fronts, resulting in no silverware, they would have been even hungrier the following campaign. But no, Ballack and Zé Roberto left for Munich, and the team just fell apart, finishing 15th in the league and exiting the Champions League second group stage with 0 points. When Shola Amiobi is scoring 2 against you in the opening 15 minutes, you know you're in trouble.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.